Black Berea episode.
Hey,
Season 8,
Charlemagne.
episode 4.
Charlemagne, you know, you live.
You know what's so funny? So it's supposed to be 3 of us today. There's only 2 of us.
Why?
Louis is stuck in traffic.
Oh, you had to send them home.
At the time we would have got here, we would have just done a benediction.
Honestly.
So,
I would have done the
Time to
closing
turn
prayer.
around.
Closing prayer.
told him to turn around.
Honestly.
But no. Femi, how are you? How's your week been?
I'm alright, man. It's been alright, you know. Had a
Yeah?
bit of time off, half time. Worked a little bit, but had some time off as well. But yeah, they've been pretty chilled. Nice hot day today. Can't
No, the
complain,
weather's
man.
summer's coming back in full swing. I'm liking it. Look at me, man. I'm showing my arms, no hoodies.
Wearing a terrible t-shirt.
What? I mean, you know the thing is, I've got 3 Liverpool jerseys. I've just been rotating them.
I'm actually wearing a Man United hat as we speak.
Yeah,
I even
you should remove
forgot.
that. You should remove that.
Nah.
I went to the parade on Monday. Thoughts with those who were in a tragic incident.
Yeah.
It's been so interesting how they've covered that because
Very interesting.
They've been quick to tell him he's a family man. He's a former, I think, former Marine. It's like, bro, like, yeah. So, but no, went to the parade. Went to
Wait,
Union Cup.
sticks on that though.
Say that again.
Sticking on that, I was thinking, imagine if it was, because I heard some people saying that, oh, like he just panicked. Imagine that was just a panic. And that's ruined your whole life.
No, it wasn't. If you,
I'm not saying it was,
Yeah.
but I'm saying imagine it was. Imagine like, because I was thinking like, oh, what if he just literally like, you got stuck and you just panic and you know how sometimes when you're driving, you're just like, and then that just messed up your whole life.
Nah, thankfully he's been charged with a lot. Thank God. You know the craziest thing? When I was in Liverpool, we couldn't leave because it was just very, very difficult to get Ubers. So we were just a lot of anxiety. And then whilst we were there, we had heard reports that there was 15 casualties.
Oh, wow.
So we were like, oh my days. Like, we were just stressed.
Yeah, I can
Thankfully,
imagine.
there's been no casualties.
Yeah, it was nice.
I think everyone is in a stable condition. So yeah, it was
Thank
a
God,
very,
man.
very manic day, but
Crazy.
really, really good day. And then obviously went to the Uni Cup.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what the Uni Cup is, it's a 4-team tournament. So it had Jamaica versus Trinidad and then Nigeria versus Ghana. So
Trinidad have
obviously-
a football team. That's the craziest
Don't
thing.
do that to them. It was a good game as well.
Come on.
It was 2-0 and 2-2.
Very, very, very cool.
What, you don't think Trinidad don't have a football team?
Maybe one Trinidad.
Come on, man. Trinidad, and they had a good turnout as well.
Is Dwight York still playing?
Yeah, Dwight York's the manager.
No way he's the manager.
Yeah, Dwight York is the manager.
Dwight York is not the manager of Trinidad and Tobago.
Dwight York is the coach.
That's
Dwight York's the manager. And then
crazy.
Steve McLaren?
That's Jamaica, no?
Yeah, he's the
Yeah, I
manager
knew
of
that.
Jamaica.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
What's up with Trinidad guy? Remember Kenwin Jones?
I don't know anyone. I don't know.
This is way back. This is throwback. This is a throwback.
But
Kenwin
obviously,
Jones. Definitely those Kenwin Jones.
we handled Ghana.
Yep.
Beat Ghana 2-1, sent them packing. But aside from that, it was a great
Ghana
day out
must
to
go.
be around so many people. Ghanaians, Nigerians. Like, it was good vibes, all positive, all good stuff, man. Had a really good time. I think we're recording this on a Friday, so tomorrow is the final. So hopefully Nigeria beat Jamaica. All love for Jamaicans, but we're taking you guys home.
I am quarter Jamaican, so if Jamaica wins, I'm still going to claim their win. Just let you know.
Nah, they're not winning.
They won't. We're going to beat them. But
Yeah.
just in case they do. Just in case. The small chance that they do, I'll claim that as well. So
No, I hear it. But I should be there tomorrow. Fingers crossed. So that would be good. Aside from that, it's been a while since we recorded. A few people disturbed me. I've been fine, man.
yeah,
I've been busy.
Then the busyness.
Yeah,
of
my
life.
brother got married a couple of weeks ago.
Hey,
So
congrats.
just been busy.
Congrats.
Trying to buy a house as well. So just been a busy.
You're trying to buy a house? Or
Yeah, trying to get on the ladder. So yeah, just busy period, but been good. And we're back, man. We're back. Today I thought we would discuss Sinners. Obviously,
We're all sinners saved
we're
by
all
grace.
sinners, right? Saved by grace.
But you got to be more specific.
But there was a movie that came out. I think it came out in April, if I'm correct.
Something like that,
called
yeah.
Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler. I think written and directed by Ryan Coogler, starring Michael B. Jordan and a few other actors, and kind of based around the premise of, you haven't even seen it, but it's
I
based
have not
around
seen
the
it.
premise of Michael B. Jordan playing some twins called Smoke and Stack, and a guy called Preacher Boy, and them trying to have, it's kind of in one day, them trying to have like a party to celebrate and kind of start a business. That's kind of the
Oh, is it based all in one day?
yeah, it's kind of based in all in one day, actually.
Didn't know
that. So, I mean, before we say this, we're gonna talk briefly about Sinners because you haven't even seen the movie, and then we'll have a broader conversation. But our critique and discussion of this film shouldn't be seen as an endorsement or a recommendation. I think there's enough sexual content in it for discerning believers to avoid.
All in one day?
Yeah.
How much content can you feel it? This is crazy.
So yeah, that's I'll say that to begin with.
Okay, cool.
But the reason why we're even discussing it is because when the film came out, there was some Christians who were very much like, you shouldn't go see this film. It's called Sinners. What do you think it's going to be about? You know, and some people said we should see the film because it's Ryan Coogler who's done Black Panther, Creed. And then so it was just Fruitvale Station. So there was a lot of kind of uproar, and then there was a particular clip. I don't think it would say it went viral, but there's a clip by Zizi Mills, who's a podcaster, host, social commentator, and she spoke on Christians who have an issue with the film, who are quick to say you can't watch Sinners, but you can sin, or you watch like secular movies, or you go to the club, or you fornicate, or you club, or you watch like Vampire Diaries was one of her references. And I thought it would be a worthwhile conversation to talk about how we engage with art, especially art around African spiritualism, because Sinners does have references to that. It kind of covers like African spirituality, music, our culture, and how it's been appropriated by the white man. So there's a few references. So I thought, so to begin with that, when we're talking about what basically Zizi Mills said about why does it seem as if when something is black art, there's always kind of a worry, but then when it's Harry Potter or Stranger Things or whatever else, it feels like it's fine for us to consume that. Like, what would be your...
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that's my first thoughts. I don't know if that's true. I think most Christians that would have an issue with something like Sinners would have an issue with Vampire Diaries or something like that. For the most part. Actually, maybe that's quite a broad statement, but so is Zizi Mills' statement, I think, is quite broad. I think really and truly it's not as black and white as either of those statements. But I don't know if that's true. I don't know if Zizi Mills' statement is specific to, black Christians are more wary of so-called African spirituality or black spirituality as opposed to any other kind of spirituality. I've heard many black Christians say, I don't want to go to see, these white people do spiritual things or witches or crystals or whatever. It's not just, I don't think it's just a black thing. It might be prominent. It's probably more prominent in our spaces. So it might seem like we're only, or those people are only attacking the black side of it. But I don't know if it's specific to black. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is specific.
I'm thinking of just the fact that, some Christians may consume horror, for example. Yeah. Or, I feel like you've seen Harry Potter, which kind of covers like divination, sorcery, witchcraft. And people don't necessarily have an issue with that. Like I could put on my Instagram watching Harry Potter tomorrow, but if I now put, of course, we can't really equate it. I think Harry Potter is I think it was always like a 12. Yeah. But whereas Sinners is something that Christians probably could and would avoid. But so why does it feel like if it's a subject about like African spirituality, but when it's other things that are non-black, there's no issue? Or
I don't know if it's as simple as that still, because when I look at Nollywood, I don't see black people running away from a lot of the themes that Nollywood put out in terms of African spirituality and stuff. That's true. So that's again, I don't know. If it's as black and white as that. I do think there's a point to it. Something like Harry Potter, for example, is very. It's like a very Western and very cleaned up version of exactly what you described, which is divination and all these witchcraft and all these things.
Bro,
so
it's still Expelliarmus, these were having spells and stuff.
Yeah, still like the same themes, but it's quite like you said, it's a 12. It's quite not childlike, but you know what I'm trying to say. Safe, it's like a safe. So that might come across as not as dangerous almost. But again, I don't know if that's a white black thing or just Western. I'm not sure. Anyway, but I get the overall point. But at the same time, I don't think black people have ever just, protested outside of Nollywood to say, they shouldn't, include their babalawos and witch doctors in their
especially. But then with Nollywood, I feel like
it's because it says to God be the glory at the end.
No, but it's also so clear. So it's so clear. I get it. Sorcery
is bad,
and they're not seen as like there's not like a good witch.
Yeah, I hear that.
The idea of, I remember when I was younger and I was trying to explain to my mum that Harry Potter wasn't as bad as she thought it was, because I remember I used to read Harry Potter, and then I used to watch a show called Charmed.
I didn't. And I remember
explained. My mum was like, "What's this about?" I was like, "Oh, they're sisters and they're witches," and she was just like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "You can't watch it." And I was like, "Oh no, but these witches are good." And she was like, "There's no such thing as good witches." And she's right. Like the Bible never talks about witchcraft being good. And in Nollywood, there was a clear demarcation between good and evil.
Fair. That's a fair
argument.
And
there was no good babalawos, and there was no good sorcerers. Like they were, and always in these films,
to God be the glory,
because them man got destroyed. Like one way or another, them man got destroyed.
It's true.
So I think even Nollywood has a better kind of view.
I heard that.
Whereas, like, if you're looking at something like Harry Potter or Stranger, like shows like that where characters that are actually witches or sorcerers or wizards are seen as good and noble.
Yeah, Harry Potter is probably the best example of that.
Harry Potter is actually, I think, the only example I can think of where you've actually got. And I don't think that means you can't engage with Harry Potter. But someone could. I've met Christians who've said because Harry Potter is about witches and wizards, I can't watch it.
Yeah, so that's the point I was trying to make earlier, that people do make that decision.
Facts.
Yeah, so yeah, to just black and white say, oh, you wouldn't do that for Harry Potter, but you do that for Sinners. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
I think people are the most bold about saying something like, I'm a Christian, I won't watch Sinners. Probably would be as bold about something like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, because they just see the arts, or that's how they take the arts in that sense.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I don't think it's fair. Yeah, of course, in some cases it might be. In some cases, we might have blind spots to something like Harry Potter as opposed to something like Sinners. But for the most part, I think if you're going to make a stance and say I'm not going to watch Sinners, they probably don't watch horror.
Yeah,
they probably don't.
They're not.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't really watch horror either, but I don't watch it because I don't like it as a genre. But I know some Christians who say they won't watch something like horror.
Yeah,
because a lot of horror really does kind of what's the word? It indulges in wickedness. Like horror is always kind of trying to incite terror and usually a lot of the times at the end of the movie the person doesn't like who's the villain escapes or something. So it's just for them and good. And I think that's the issue. We're talking about conscience and liberty. That Christians can in good conscience engage with Harry Potter or Sinners, and they could also decide that they don't want to.
Yeah.
Like, I know Christians who wouldn't watch Harry Potter straight. Like anything that's a bit out there, they're not going to watch it for their own conscience. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think even what Zizi's talked about in terms of, but you go to the club and you have tattoos and you sin, like, but that's also different as well.
Yeah, that's a false dichotomy.
Yeah, because how would you? Because there's a sense in which I could not decide not to watch Sinners for whatever reason, but that doesn't mean me having a tattoo or watching Vampire Diaries. You can't really equate it. I
think the main difference would be if you were the Christian that was telling other Christians not to watch Sinners, but yet you were doing. It's still not the same, but I think I can understand how someone like Zizi, that's not a Christian, or someone on the watching eye, would listen to someone say, "Oh, all Christians shouldn't watch Sinners," but yet they're doing whatever. That can seem quite hypocritical. But if it's I made the decision myself for my own conscience that actually, for whatever reason, for example, I'm okay going to the club or listening to secular music. It doesn't affect my conscience in some way. But something like Sinners, I couldn't do. Yeah, I think that's completely fine. And I don't think there has to be a oh my gosh, but you go to the club, so that means why could you make that stance on Sinners now? I don't think you can do that. But I think it's a bit more grey again when you're out telling other Christians not to do certain things, or telling other Christians how their conscience should be about certain things, when they can make the same argument about you listening to Biggie. Yeah, no, I think that's the nuance that we have, and it's informed by the scriptures. So so for example, I was at my brother's wedding 2 weeks ago, and Congrats.
my second cousin, he's young, he doesn't drink alcohol for whatever reason. So much of the weekend was spent trying to get him to consume alcohol. Wrongly.
You guys are terrible. I hate people like you.
Wrongly, by the way. So even at one point, my pops is trying to explain to him that Christ has turned water into wine. So there's clearly nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. That's hilarious. And I was just, of course, thinking, guys, like, if whatever reason he has, you can't force him to drink alcohol. And of course, you can still say to him, bro, you know there's nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. But to him, it's sin. Like to him, he doesn't want to. And I think that's the same with this. And even like 1 Corinthians 10 talks about food offered to idols. Right? Like if I'm having a barbecue and you man come over and I'm like, oh, by the way, before we came, we offered this to the gods. Yeah, you could say, I'm not going to eat this. Yeah. Or you could say, bro, idols don't exist. Chop it type thing. And that's the same with the arts. And a lot of the time, of course, Sinners is different because someone could say there's sexual content and there's kind of perversion that means but something like, I don't know, Marvel, where Thor and there's all these kind of fictitious characters who tend to be gods. If someone says I don't want to watch that, food off with the idols, you know what I'm saying? Like they're actually fine with it. And I think you miss a lot of it if you kind of make it so simple of like.
There is. I like what you said about the fact that Sinners had this, the sexual content or whatever, because I do think in our conversation, I think we've spoken about this before, but in our conversations about conscience, I do think sometimes we can blur the lines too far. Like where I don't know if we really assess how desensitized we are. To things.
No, 100%.
And not enough. So the reason why that doesn't affect my conscience is because I'm so desensitized that I was having this conversation because one thing that irks me about, especially a lot of TV now. We just finished watching Forever, a Forever show on Netflix about a young black couple, right? And my wife always laughs because I'm always like, I don't know why they need to keep showing us these teenagers having sex.
Yeah,
like, and it's so prominent. Like, but then I should be saying that about any sexual scene, really. But there's something specific about teenage sex. I'm like, why do they need to keep promoting these youngsters? I know they're not actually teenagers; they're probably like in their 20s, but who cares? Like, you're putting it out to me that these school kids are just doing whatever, and it just irks me. But I'm so desensitized that irks me. But if it was grown people, I might not be as irked. Like, why am I not irked at in any sense? So, so the point I was trying to make earlier was that, I do think we have blurred the line so much that we probably should assess. Like, if there was an outright statement that Christians, I haven't seen Sinners yet, if there was an outright statement that Christians should not watch Sinners, as much as we can say conscience and all these things, there has to be a level of, actually, maybe that person could potentially be right. Like, there's something, again, this is not based on the actual movie. I'm just saying in theory. Like, there might be something so bad in Sinners that actually Christians shouldn't be watching it. And we can say this black and white. But I think we've blurred the line so much that we can go to the conscience thing and can be like, oh, this doesn't affect me though, and blah, blah. That's quite big with music. Like, oh yeah, I'm not affected by music. I know they're talking about this, that, and that, and that, and that, but I'm not, it doesn't, affect my spirit or blah, 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 blah. But truthfully, like, even just by listening to some things, there's certain things that we're listening to, we're promoting it. Even if it doesn't affect you, like, should we be promoting it? So I think there's lines that are very, very blurred, but I also do take the conscience
and liberty. So I think the Christian isn't under the law of Moses. We're under the law of Christ, which means we have, of course, but our freedom shouldn't be for self. It should be for others.
Shouldn't be moving mad.
So of course, like, there's certain shows someone could watch that they wouldn't just be like, go watch, even our consumption of certain TV shows. And I'm very mindful of, like, I've got safe spaces where I could talk to someone and say, I've watched this. Oh man, this is crazy, right? But if I'm with someone else, I might not, because I don't know what people are struggling with. And I 100% agree with you, because I love TV. I love watching TV shows. But it's like, bruh, like, there's so much sex scenes that can a believer actually be comfortable, like, constant. And I've heard people say, oh, but I'm married. Okay.
Nah, probably not.
Oh, but I'm this. It's like, are you sure? Like, and some things it's just not worth it. Like, okay, the show's banging, but must you watch?
What if I just close my eyes?
I don't know, man. I've had conversations with people that have told me watching the sex scene isn't sin because they're not really having sex, and I'm like, you know what? Cool. All the best of you, man. Like, But it's like, if you're now making them lofty arguments, all the best.
Yeah, you're doing too much.
Yeah. Whereas
I think you just have to accept that I'm enjoying this show and I probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Like, I think you have to acknowledge that at something. Or I'm enjoying this music, but I probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think there should be some level of acknowledgement to that.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Just randomly, but did you watch You?
I watch You. What's You again? It's the serial killer one.
The serial killer.
Yeah, I don't believe in shows like that.
Yeah, see, there you go. There's a conscious argument there.
I don't even know if it's conscious. I just what do you mean the hero is a killer?
He's not even a killer, he's a serial killer.
What do you mean that's the protagonist? I don't believe
he's not just a killer, he's serial.
That's why I stopped watching Scandal.
As in multiple.
I was watching Scandal. What's it about? Oh, it's about a woman that's cheating on with the husband. I said, what kind of show is this? Like, the premise of it is this.
But the reason why I brought up You specifically, I watched every episode of You. Just finished the last season that came out recently. But the way they've done the show is how desensitivization. That's the name of the word.
Desensitization, yeah. I'm with you. They know what we're saying.
They know what I'm saying. It's crazy because that's what that show does. Because it makes you fall in love with the character and you get drawn to the character of Joe Goldberg that so much that you're forgetting the fact that this guy is murdering multiple people every single season. And not only just murdering, he's manipulating people, he's lying, he's stalking, he's abusing. But because they've done the show in such a way where you get drawn to the character, but you forget all of the craziness that he's doing. You don't forget, but there's been a lot of discourse about the fact that, because about spoiling it, I guess. But yeah, a lot of discourse about how most seasons, up until the last season, season 5, you want him to get away with it. Like, generally, like, I don't want him to get caught. I don't want the guy to get caught. And there's a lot of that in a lot of shows recently where you portray there's the Penguin as well, where you're portraying the villain. There's a lot. That's quite a common thing. Yeah, anti-hero. That's the word. Yeah, there's a lot of big thing about anti-heroes and like portraying the human side of the villain. So almost to the extent that you want them to win, you want them to do well, kind of thing. But that speaks to how much TV tries to desensitize us to things that are clearly wrong.
For sure. Yeah. I can't remember who. I think it was W.E.B. Du Bois that talks about art being propaganda, and like
course.
all art is propaganda. So if you're watching a TV show you're not neutral. It's not a neutral show.
No.
Like there's a worldview that's
So much
constantly
propaganda.
attacking
So
you.
much.
'Cause you could watch a TV show like You or whatever, and you're thinking, why am I rooting for evil to win? Like, why am I rooting for someone who's murdered someone to get away with it? Or like, why I'm watching a show and this person has robbed from the bank, and I'm hoping, this because I want him to get away because his family is like, no, like. We should actually always want good to triumph and evil to be brought to justice. And I think when those lines are blurry, you gotta search your
Interesting
heart.
though, isn't it? The theme is anti-heroes.
Yeah,
So much
anti-heroes
of
are
our
so
media.
in.
So much of our media.
Because I think
anti-heroes.
people are getting bored of the fact that like even something like if you watch Avengers, or a lot of it is now you guys have done so much wickedness. So like, you guys you're saving the day, but you've left so many like people who have died because I don't know, when Hulk comes and saves someone, he destroys a whole village, and you're having that like comeuppance type of story, and then you've now got like, let's do a deep dive into Joker and understand why Joker's like this, and it's like, but this person's and that's when we're blurring the lines between good and evil. Whereas I think back in the day, like good was on one side,
it was straight, easy,
yeah.
black and white, Nollywood.
Yeah,
to God be the glory.
Like,
to God be the glory at the end.
Whereas nowadays, and that's when you see your heart like affected, because you're thinking, why am I rooting for this sinful couple or why am I rooting for this wicked person to win? And it's like this. So for me, when I'm like the protagonist is a serial killer, I'm like, no, I can't.
It's a good show though. It's a good show. Sorry, I'm not endorsing anything.
I'm just like, no, man. And then you now see, is there going to be any impending doom for the character? Like, is he ever going to get arrested? Is there any kind of sweeping kind of and then he was brought to light? Because that's what you want, right?
Well, the last season was, I don't want to spoil it, but
finally, after he's
it
ruined people's lives.
It was the last season. I don't want to say what happened to him, but there was some conclusion to everything.
But then it's interesting, because does art have to be, so for example, with Sinners, some people have felt like there's an anti-Christian propaganda. So there's parts in Sinners where the characters are talking about, the blues, which is kind of the period they're in Mississippi, I think in the 60s, and they're talking about the fact that you guys put Christianity onto us, but we already had the blues, we didn't need that, or our African spirituality historically gave us the blues, and you guys have given us religion, given us this white man's religion, basically. So a lot of people felt like, this is an anti-Christian propaganda. Okay, propaganda is a bit strong, but there's an anti-Christian narrative in Sinners, and I think you would be, even if you watch it with just plain view, you can definitely see that there's a suggestion that you guys took our music and then you gave us Jesus, and then you guys benefited from it. So if you're watching something that has that, like, how would you navigate that? Because a lot of the times you might see this in TV shows a lot where
I don't think that specifically is a bad thing, because that should just open up conversation, or that should open even just deep thought, or just like conversation within yourself or conversation with other people. I think that's good evangelistic tools, a good just good conversation starter. So I don't think consuming that kind of content within reason is necessarily bad. I think if you're promoting it in a way like, this is so great that they're doing that, might be a bit more, but it's good. Like I watched Sinners, for example. Again, I haven't seen Sinners, so I don't know the whole, but let's just speak hypothetically. I've watched Sinners. They have a little bit of anti-Christian propaganda. Let's talk about it. Let's go to the podcast and talk about it. Let's talk about my friend. Like, why do you think that they said that? Or what's your thoughts on it? Or it's again, maybe it's just an inward conversation. Like, okay, how do I feel about that? People are perceiving Christianity like that. Obviously, the drawbacks to that is that some people will allow themselves to ask those questions, and that might take them away. But then again, if it wasn't Sinners, it might be something else. Like we're so, again, when you use the word propaganda, it's everywhere. Like if you're on social media, you're not going to avoid some kind of propaganda, and especially anti-Christian propaganda. So I don't think that in itself is a reason not to watch a movie. No, I wouldn't say so. No, it's everywhere.
I think so too. I think even when you watch Sinners, you can see there's a suggestion that music is kind of core to this, because Preacher Boy is a musician, and he's kind of dealing with the fact, like, his dad's a preacher, so he's dealing with, should I be in the church or should I be in the world, so to speak. So there's that kind of conflict of, should I take my talents and be, Saul, or should I stay in the church? And it's very much like me versus, like, the world versus God. And then there's that subtle suggestion I think Ryan Coogler does, where it's like, this music is transcendent, and it's more transcendent than anything Christianity or the church can offer. So if you're watching that, you're just seeing it like, okay. But then even that, like, that could be what art is presenting, but you even know that music can't save. Like, what I'm saying? Like, even even as transcendent as music can be, it doesn't provide any sort of apologetic to what Christianity offers. So
I guess as you were talking, I was just thinking about why that specifically could maybe say a Christian should. I think it would be more promotion, so not so much for me as a Christian to watch that kind of. I'm just using the word propaganda for want of a better word, but I guess it would reinforce people that already have those kind of feelings towards Christianity, and I don't think that's helpful. I guess. Yeah. So yeah, if you're already having thoughts about Christianity being white man's religion and all these other thoughts that are quite prevalent, and then you go watch it or you go promote Sinners, that's just like reinforcing a lot of those narratives. So as a Christian, do I want to partake in reinforcing a lot of that narrative? Maybe not. I don't know. That's another. I guess that's another angle you could look at. Again, I don't think that in itself is a reason to not watch it, but I understand both sides. I think there's loads of reasons why you could. Yeah.
And I think even the film tackles like African spirituality just generally. So there's a character that is a lot more kind of connected to her African spiritual roots. And like, what do you think about us as Black Nigerians, Black Caribbeans, Black Africans, kind of wanting to understand like what were the religions that my grandparents, great grandparents, what were the religions they trying to understand more of yourself? I know we're sometimes dabbling into the identity series. Like, how important is it to know what your lineage and what your history is? It's good.
It's good that you said how important, because I don't think, like with everything, I think it's good to know about what came before you. The more I reflect on like even things like African, even going as deep as African spirituality, yes, like, you know, we're both Yoruba, and there's a lot of tradition behind our culture, and yeah, it's good. I think I'm not saying that we should all know it, but yeah, there's no harm in knowing what came before us. And you know, how even if it comes out of spirituality, like how they practiced, what they thought of God, what they thought of the Creator, what they thought of the spirit realm, for want of a better word. But I think there's a romanticization. Well, I can't say words. Romanticization of things that happened before us. Like, just because it happened before us, that means it was good. Yeah. Because a lot of our ancestors did terrible things as well. And just because it came before us, it's like this whole, like, again, romanticization of our ancestors. Like, oh, just because they're our ancestors, they love us, and then that's why we got to pray to them, because what? They could have been terrible people. Just like there have been terrible people for generations. Like, there's bad people and great people everywhere. I think and I think, especially, I'm not going to say, no, I was going to say especially Americans, but I would even say both, even Black people in general, there's a yearning to just know who we are. I think there's a unique aspect with Black people, Black and African Americans, because they've obviously been separated from who they are, you know. So I think there's a yearning to know more there. But even us here, we're still so far removed from our ancestors that, there's probably still an identity crisis in the sense that we want to know, especially in the diaspora. But so I guess a long way of answering the question is yes. I don't think it's necessarily bad to learn about what came before us, but also, I think as Christians, just because it's hard to like narrow that because it's a bigger conversation. I don't want to make it into a bigger conversation.
It's a bigger conversation. If you want to anyway.
Because there's truth in the fact that Christianity was brought to us. Yeah. Because it was, right? But my thinking towards the fact that Christianity was brought to us doesn't take away the fact that whether it's true or not. Because that's the heart of what it is. Like, is Christianity, is what was brought to us true? If it's not, then
we can dispose of it.
Then fine, dispose of it. Then yes, you can say, okay, maybe I want to find truth in my African spirituality, or I want to find truth in my ancestors, or blah blah blah. But we've got to tackle the fact of whether it's true or not, not where it came from. Like, I think you can get so caught up about where it came from, and of course I understand, because where it came from also came with slavery and transatlantic slave trade and all these other things, and colonialism, and so a lot of it came with it. Yeah. And so I get why it's hard to separate those two things. I'm not like negating that, but at the same time, there's still we can still critically assess whether the claims that they brought to us or what they gave us is true. There's enough we can do to do that. So yes, I understand it's hard, but I still think that's something that we should do, and not just say, oh no, but the white man gave us this, so that means blah blah blah. That doesn't make it false. If white man brought us electricity, For example, I'm not saying it, but where is the white? Are we going to say, oh, because the white man gave it to us, we're not going to switch on our light? we're not going to charge our iPhone because the white man gave it to us. Yeah. No, we're going to say, oh, actually, yes, the white man did give it to us, but I need to charge my iPhone. It's a lot of ramble because it's a lot of
I hear exactly what you're saying. Because I think there's an importance of you discovering your roots or wanting to know what your kind of what your lineage did, like what were they like, what were their personalities like, what did they eat, what did they wear, like who did they worship, doesn't take away from the kind of the truthfulness or the kind of the ask of Christianity. And I think people almost feel like if we are factual, so if we say, okay, for example, when the gospel was brought to Africa, that came with it, you know, racism, came with it, slavery. Like I literally, when I went to Ghana, I went to Cape Coast and we went to the tower and the slave castle, and
I've heard about
the underground Amina Castle is like where the slaves were, and built on top of the slave castle was where the priests and the pastors and the fathers would stay. Crazy. And like the guy who was telling us this wasn't like a believer. He clearly wasn't. Like, he was like, look at the hypocrisy of this. Like you guys came to preach the gospel and yet you enslaved people, and you man had like fancy towers and you had windows, but these people didn't. So us kind of saying that and decrying it and saying that's true.
Yeah, no, you can't ignore that.
Yeah, it doesn't deny the fact that even in the midst of that was still kind of gospel light, even though it was tragic and dark. And I think sometimes we think, oh, if I'm gonna find out. So with me, I would love I talk to my pops about it all the time. I would love to know where your grandfather grew up and walk the same streets and. Oh, he worshipped this person. Okay, cool. I'm a Christian type thing. Yeah. So I don't think there's ever an issue with that. And I think you can also run into the danger of like anything to do with African spirituality is, of course, it's all idols. But white people have idols too. Oh yeah. So when we just think, okay, black is bad and everything else is good. Everything about European Western religion is perfect, and it's like no, like. Even in Western religion, there's still idols, and no culture is perfect. Nope. And we can even see that the Europeans could even tell you, okay, you have to dress like this, and you've got to wear suits to church. And it's like no. So it's I think even in that self-discovery, that doesn't take away from the fact that the Christianity has a call to respond to. Because you're seeing a lot of people in the last couple of years wanting to rediscover their roots in hope that it would give them meaning and purpose. And it may do to an effect, but idols have eyes that don't see and hands that don't save. So there is still that call, even to think, even if I know my roots and know where, my grandfather's grandfather was raised, that doesn't do anything in relation to saving my soul. So I think that's definitely something to think through. So how do you navigate like sometimes the presentation that everything to do with black people historically is bad and everything to do with white people is good? Or like, how do you navigate that?
How do I navigate that? I don't think I think like that. I don't think black people think like that in general. Again, I think we need to fight against that. So if that is there, because obviously there might be some subconscious biases that, especially us that grew up in the West, that we might do that. Actually, let me even go back. I think I've said this on the pod before, but even us that grew up even if you just got to, just make it into a church context, sometimes like I've said out loud that I don't want to go to.
I'm crying because I actually don't know where you're going with this.
I don't want to go to a Nigerian church or something.
Oh, no, you said crying.
No, I don't want to be a member. I've said that. Like, I don't want to be a member of a Nigerian church.
You know what's so funny? Someone generated an AI video today. I think they just typed into AI like African pastor preaching about tithes, and it just had a video, and everyone's just like, this feature's changed because it literally looks like a real video.
Oh wow, jeez.
It's like just the progression of AI.
But I've said that out of my mouth. So I
hear what you're saying.
So to answer the question first, I was like, I don't know if that, but then actually no, because there are some times where there are some biases that I have towards my own people, even in the church. Let's even talk about outside the church, even inside the church. I'm like, oh, actually, no, that I did think white is better, but there's some things where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that, or that's too Nigerian, or blah blah blah, wherever bias I have, blah blah blah. So I do think you have to be wary of that. Actually, now that I've more processed the question, I do think you have to be wary about that. But outside of the church, though,
so you wouldn't want to go to like a black church?
No. I'm saying I said that in the past.
Oh,
and that was specifically Nigerian, not that I'm happy with Black
and
church.
that's because of the cultural.
Yeah, there's some cultural things that maybe not even scarred me. Scarred is a strong word, but there's certain things that I'm like, oh, I don't want to be part of that again.
Yeah, the
but,
respect idea. There's
a lot. I don't. That's not what the pod is for today. Yeah, so you should be wary about that because those things creep in. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen, especially when you've had bad experiences with one particular thing. It's like, oh, I need to go so far to the left. So that's dangerous. So you should be wary of that. But I don't even know what the original question was.
Just how we see like things that are black versus because every church has a culture. So you could. So and I say this all the time. Like you could go to a black Pentecostal church and it will have, I don't know where it is. Like you've got the grandmas in the front who are going to tell you about what you're wearing and why you're wearing this and why you're not wearing, why you're wearing ripped jeans and why you're wearing this and you know what you're coming there for and I don't know, why you single or like whatever it is.
Whatever it is, yeah.
But then white churches have their culture.
Of course they do.
Well.
Of course they do.
But it's like we put that to the side. And I've spoken to so many people like, oh, I'm looking for a church, but I don't really want to go to. And I'm like, why? Like,
they have their own things. Everyone's got their things.
If a church is preaching the gospel, why isn't it a church that you would consider?
100%.
And of course, we don't want any tradition by man to be something that rules the day, but every church has a tradition.
Every church.
But it's interesting because we might put one tradition as like negative and bad.
That's the issue.
But then the other country is like, oh no, it's amazing, it's
That's
great. And
the
it's
issue,
like, why aren't we putting both on level playing fields?
100%.
Coming back to just art generally, how do you engage with art? This is probably like the last question I have.
That's a good question.
Yeah, like, how do I engage with art? We've spoken about, I think there's an episode we talked about like going, we had a conversation about going to the Beyonce concert.
Yes.
So how do you engage with art? Like, so it can be the arts in terms of like music, movies, books, statues, paintings.
This reminds me of a conversation I was listening to about Orthodox. Because Orthodox Church, they bow to the picture.
I didn't know
that. Yeah, I heard that for the first time the other day. How do I engage? I don't think I have a strong enough filter. So I think I'm pretty accepting. Like obviously there's a boundary, but I do think I'm accepting of most forms of art. That doesn't cross the line too crazy. So I think my filter could probably be a bit stronger, as in like, I probably just shouldn't watch that, or listen to that, or probably even looser with music. I don't listen to that much music in general now, but no, I think my filter for music is stronger than it is for like other forms of media like film or TV. Like there's some music I just want to listen to. I'm like, why are you talking? I'm not going to listen to, for example, I'm not going to listen to someone talk about sex like just explicitly. I'm just like, why am I listening to this? Whereas a show that has a few sex scenes in it, I'm less likely to be like, you can it's interesting actually. When I say that out loud, that's quite interesting. So yeah, I think I probably should have a stronger filter, like in terms of this is not that helpful for me. And I can, like I was saying earlier, I think I can make myself believe that it doesn't affect me or it doesn't. But there's just so much. It's one, you don't know how much anything's affecting you. So that's number one. And two, just because it's not overtly affecting you doesn't mean you should be engaging in something. So just being aware of that. Again, I'm not here saying, oh, don't watch this, don't watch that, because I just spoke about the fact that I watch so many different shows. But I do think myself and Christians in general should just be aware of how desensitized we've become, and just be aware of it, and and do whatever you need to do to make sure it's not crazy.
It's not affecting you. No, I hear that. I think with me, I've always been like artistic and enjoyed the arts. Like I love fair art, whatever it is. And I think if something, I feel like historically I'll be like, if something is good, I'll consume it. Like if the movie's good, if it's been shot well, even if the themes are just like ungodly, I'm gonna try and find a way to engage with it. Or if the song's good, if it's been produced well, if the book's been written well. Like I think that's not always been a good thing, because though it's good, though it's beautiful, doesn't mean it's helpful. I think that scripture of all things are beneficial, but not all things are helpful. And I think the utility of something is also good for my soul. And I found myself in seasons where I'm consuming a lot of like art that's good, but like ungodly, that like I start to think wrongly, and I start to like my mindset's different, and just so many things. Like it's almost like being around that whole scripture of like bad conduct. Like you're around someone and they're just so irritable and so impatient, and then you start to like be like them. And I think even with the arts, like I love I love consuming art, but it's like, especially as the world is gone, like, you might watch a TV show from like this. I remember I was watching West Wing, and I was like, I know why so many Christians like this TV show. It's so clean. Like,
it's so clean, so pure.
So pure. And then you watch a TV show made today.
Boy.
And it's the characters, it's what they believe, it's what they do. Like, the character's never married. It's always like he's in a polyamorous relationship.
Do you know, once upon a time, like Hollywood had rules. Like, you
sure.
couldn't kiss on screen.
Yeah,
like kissing on screen would be like porn, basically.
No, 100%.
like,
even that's why I don't even watch new Nollywood. Like old Nollywood, they're about to get married, and then the camera will pan away.
Yeah.
New Nollywood, bro.
I haven't watched Nollywood for a long time, but I know it's got a bit.
New Nollywood is like Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's like what? And it's weird. It's even weirder because it's like, why are uncles and aunties doing this? But it's also just like, it's so hard to consume any art. Even I love music, and I was listening to a mixtape today, and it's like it feels like there's nowhere that you can consume art, and there's no reminder that you live in a sinful world.
Gospel, man, just listen to gospel.
Even to be fair, gospel music, and I do listen to quite a lot of gospel music now, and I think that's been helpful. I think, of course, I grappled with like, is gospel music good? Like, in terms of the art of it, like, is it excellent?
Oh yeah.
But when you find them pockets, you stay with them, man. You stay with them, and there's also some sinners like Common Grace who are not gonna sing the wildest lyrics. Like they can be quite wholesome. But it's just a reminder, like, even art is tainted because we live in a sinful world.
Would you recommend any for the people that struggle? Because I think
now I'll say it, and then now the person's like, nah, this song is. I have to go away and like.
Yeah, I think music is easy because it's such easy for some. I find it quite hard actually, but easier in terms of there's so much gospel music out there. That if you really wanted to stay away from the more secular stuff, you can find something. But I don't know if it's the same for like other forms of media, like again shows.
You know what it is? I think that's why the conscience and liberty thing is important. So like, there's a guy called Brett McCracken. He writes for Gospel Coalition primarily, and he reviews like a lot of films. So he wrote an article about sinners and about like how sinners view sin, and he wrote about it. And I basically took his beginning of like, this is not an endorsement or recommendation. Christians should discern. And he's reviewed loads of TV shows. I think he's reviewed Severance. He's reviewed.
It's a great show, by the way.
Yeah, Adolescence. Like I know we didn't talk about Adolescence, but yeah, there's I think there's people in Christians who can engage with art under that liberty conscience thing. Like I think you could meet brethren who have decided that I can watch Game of Thrones, or I can consume some of it. And some Christians are going to be like, no, I can't. Yeah. Same with sinners. Like, we're not endorsing or recommending sinners. You could go and read the blurb and be like, I'm not watching this. And you're doing that in faith. And someone could be like, no, I'm going to watch it. I want to be strong. And you're not doing it in faith. So I think art is always going to be something that you have to be discerning. With music, with the arts, with books, like so many books, there's always something inside it that you're like, I can't read this. But I think art is a good thing. It's something the Lord has given us, but it's tainted by sin, like as in everything is. So it's so important to consume it in a way that's honoring to the Lord. In a way that's honoring to the Lord. And it may mean that you can consume that, or it may mean it's not a deep, like there's I just watched a TV show the other day. I won't say the name because it's a bit crazy, but it came out like 5 years ago, and my friend was like, Mary, just watch it. And the 5 years I didn't watch it, I didn't die. Yeah. Like, there's no TV show or album or book I've not listened to that I'm now like, I can't be a human being
if I don't watch it.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
unless it's Breaking Bad, you have to watch Breaking Bad. No,
I don't think I finished that show. Like, there's certain shows that it's like, if I don't watch it, okay, you know what I'm saying?
The Wire.
I've seen The Wire.
Okay.
But someone could say, I don't want to watch The Wire because
it
indulges in sexual content and drugs. That's fine. Like, there's no art in the world,
of course,
that's that deep for a believer.
Nothing. Literally nothing.
And I think it's so important for us to guard, as people talk about like your soul gate, your ear gate, your eye gate, the things you consume, like the things you watch, the things you see, and the fact that it's worldliness. Like, we live in the world, and the world is so opposed to the things of the Lord, so that it's not what you eat, what you touch, what you taste. There's a sense in which we're affected by sin. So it's so important that we're mindful of that. Liberty, conscience. Any last words as we wrap up this episode?
Go watch Sinners. I'm joking.
No, know you're a sinner and you need to be a saint. Saved by grace.
That's the title.
What, Saints and Sinners?
Saints and Sinners is a perfect title. Perfect title. We've got it already.
So we're saints. We used to be sinners. We are sinners.
Yeah. Well, until I watched the movie on Friday.
Why are you watching the movie for? We just told you not to watch
it. Sorry.
This whole episode is basically don't watch it.
I'm not going to watch it.
But no.
All right.
Yeah, cool. That's it.
Hey.
Shout out Louis, who's still in traffic.
He's still coming.
You know he would have pulled up now.
He's still got in it.
He would have pulled up now. But yeah, Black Berea.
All right. See you.